Hi, this tutorial is for applying texture maps and UVs to an existing model. There are various different methods of doing this, but this is the one that I particularly prefer for non-organic objects such as this building. It's already been modeled and ready for mapping, so we're going to apply a texture to it now. So we open up the material editor, we give it a name, selecting the diffuse channel slot, and then we'll go and find a bitmap to apply to the object. Now, these texture sheets that I already have, they've been prepared using Photoshop. Basically, it's a 1024 by 1024 texture sheet because we're going to be using this for a real-time game in the Unity game engine. So we've got our texture, we can have a look around it. Here's the actual image itself. As you can see, there are several different texture tiles that are in the texture sheet for different things. Most of them are either set up to kind of 256 square or somewhere around that kind of multiple of 2. We also have a normal map, so we'll apply the normal map material now, and we'll go and put the bitmap into that of the normal map. So let's have a look at that normal map. This normal map has been created using the actual texture itself in Photoshop using the NVIDIA normal map plugin, which is free for download. So now we have to apply that texture directly to the model. So what we'll do is we'll show the model in the viewport by clicking this button here. And then we shall apply it to the model which is selected. There we go. So there you see the model is completely placed over the with the texture. So you can see that each of the faces actually has the texture applied to it. This is because that I had previously added a face UV mapping to the model itself. It kind of makes it easier for when we're applying the unwrap. So there's the unwrap modifier. We go down to face sub-object level. I'm just moving the roll out here to make it easier to see on the screen because we need the mapping sections as well. So there's the polygon level. We're going to click that, and then we'll select the faces which we want to apply our UV coordinates to. So you have polygon mode, you have vertex mode that you can use as a selection. You have the vertex modes that you can pull around on the UV plate. So we'll go to polygon mode just now, and we'll select our polygons that we want to apply a particular section of the map to. So I know on this particular one, I select these particular faces here, back and front, because we're going to project right through the brickwork texture. I've got 2 different types of brickwork texture for this particular model. As you can see, when you actually click the unwrap, you get the geometry shown in the unwrap modifier, and there's rather a lot of it. So if you select all of it, then you can select the entire model, but we just want these particular faces for this particular part of the mesh. So I'm going to click the front around the window and the back and project it right through. So we're going to isolate the selection on the UV modifier so that we actually only show those selected faces in the modifier. It gets rid of all the green lines that kind of make it a little bit confusing just now. So we're going to do a planar map, and we're going to map right through. As you can see, the planar mapping has, in this case, defaulted to the wrong coordinate system. So we're going to map it through on the Y because we're projecting from back to front, and then it takes up the entire texture sheet. So what we need to do then is modify in the editor here where the mapping coordinates are actually going to be placed. So you've got these tools here where you can move it around, you can rotate the polygon selection. As you can see in the model itself, in the viewport, the changes that are made are reflected in real time. So we have, I'm scaling it down just now, but we're going to use the freeform modifier so that we can drag the corners, and we can place the corners in exactly the right positions that we want. So with the freeform you can not only drag the corners, but you can also rotate from the edges. Now this particular part is the top part of the brickwork that we want here. You can tell that because there's some dirt patches that are dripping down. So we're going to place the top corner in the top corner of the texture tile, and then we're going to drag the bottom corner to the bottom left, excuse me. So once we have the texture in the place that we need it on the texture sheet, we just kind of pull it all into position there. You can see in the viewport the brickwork texture is ready on that one side. There is projected through from back to front, and it goes around the window quite perfectly. Actually, I've noticed there that I've missed a couple of polygons, so I'll have to go back in a while and change that. So we just grab the polygon selection on the UV, and we can copy it, and then we can paste it into another one. After we select another polygon, we can paste in, and because we're using this same part of the UV coordinate, we can multi-select on other polygons that use the same portion of the texture sheet. So in this case, both ends and the backs. So I mean that's just basically one polygon that we're just copying the texture portion to. Just paste it on. So there's a quick way to duplicate texture positions, UV positions. So we grab the front there, and we can copy that around the window as well. There's the bits that I missed before. So what I need to do now is select those, and because we want the same texture portion to match in properly, it's actually easier to redo the whole front face there, just making sure that I select all of the polygons that make up the front face. So we can grab those, and then we can reproject the UVs. So there we are, just redoing that, repositioning that. Just go through it really quickly there. Then we can copy and paste and make sure that the whole of the front set that share the same kind of geometry, they're going to match with the same kind of UV coordinates. So the bottom windows there, we're going to just do in exactly the same way. We pull out the UV coordinates, but we're not using the same portion of the texture sheet. We're going to use the natural brickwork without any of the dirt on. So that is kind of like the second tile along. Now you can see on the texture sheet there that I've got multiple different types of brickwork. This means that this particular texture sheet can be used over different buildings, or we can create variations in the mapping on the same geometry just by dragging the UVs down to a different position. So on the roof section here, we've got a roof tile texture. So what we're going to do is project again through back to front. or front to back. So we select the two polygons at the top there that match exactly, and we project through on the Y. The same with the corner sections. As you can see, the kind of angle is the same. These texture tiles on this texture sheet, they actually do tile. They match up end to end so that they can be repeated along along the model, and the different polys that kind of edge on end to end, they will match up. So this section here is the top of the brickwork. Now the geometry isn't the same height as the windows that we've already done, but we do want to use the same portion of the texture. So we need to kind of measure up a little bit and make sure that we kind of make the actual brickwork the same relative height as the brickwork on the main wall, so that it doesn't look out of place. Same here with the top section. This is probably only going to be maybe 2 or 3 bricks deep, so we can scale up the there we've got it at 3 bricks there, making sure that the scaling is going to be the same. And what I'm doing here is projecting again, because the brickwork is going to be the same either end of the model, so it can be projected right through. So we select the back and the fronts of both sides of the building, so that we can apply the UV coordinates in one go. Now this particular part, we're mapping down the z-axis again, so that we are projecting through from the top. But because the brickwork is going to actually change the angle, we need to rotate the UV coordinates to 90 degrees, and to make sure that the brickwork runs in a natural bond. Now I'm projecting down here the concrete section that runs around the rim of the roof, and also the section that kind of the ledge that goes around the floors. And they're using the same UVs again, so we're just projecting down through the top. So we select all the top faces, and then we can select the front and back faces as well. I've sped this up quite a bit now, so that we can see there's a lot of repetition in creating mapping. So we'll kind of get through this one, just changing the vertex positions there, and it's pretty much the same kind of workflow all the way through. You just kind of got to get the initial parts properly. See that I'm done one of the windows, and then I'm just copying the position for all the rest. Same with the lower windows there. This kind of workflow works best for very simple geometry or geometric shapes like buildings. These buildings that are very kind of cube-like, very square. This kind of mapping method is absolutely perfect for this kind of thing. Obviously, if you're going to be mapping characters or other oddly shaped buildings or models, then you'd probably prefer to use a slightly different method for this. You can use the UV editor to project out and flatten out the actual UVs to create a template, which then you can take into Photoshop and then kind of use as a mask, so you can actually draw your mapping on the texture sheet that you've exported from 3ds Max. Or you could even use the canvas system in 3ds Max and use Photoshop to clone out from an existing image into the texture actually within 3ds Max. There's various different methods people prefer, but this one seems to work best for these kinds of buildings. And doing the window surrounds there, it's all going to be brickwork and concrete kind of textures, so they're all going to be very much the same. So I've taken the first one, I've mapped the first one, and then I've copied the UV coordinates, and then I'm just kind of repasting them back onto the different parts of the geometry. So we'll do the same thing here with the lower windows. The lintel and the window surround is slightly different, so we do one again and then we'll copy onto the other one. Now we're doing the kickboard around the bottom of the building, which again is just like a concrete foundation. So we just grab all the particular faces, we can project through back and front, side to side, the same again. With this building, as you can see, there is kind of a ledge where the gravel board kind of extrudes out, so we need to remember to do that. It's tiny, so it's kind of easily missed, so we're just going to go around and do that now. And there we have it. Now the mapping is complete on this particular building. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bake in the mapping coordinates by collapsing the modifier stack. So then that's the building complete. So that can now be exported as a FBX file and used in the Unity game engine, which is subject for another tutorial. Thanks for watching. My name is Jason Redway. We're now going to save this, and that brings us to the end of the tutorial.